where the mountains touch the sky. The night is quiet, and the world feels suspended between breath and stillness as you begin your journey. Above you, the Himalayan sky spreads like a vast velvet tapestry, each star a silver ember glowing softly in the cold. The air is thin here, sharp, yet cleansing, brushing against your cheeks, with the coolness born only from ancient snowfields. Somewhere far below, hidden beneath layered ridges of rock and mountain pine rivers, whisper their long pilgrimage toward the plains. You sit on a smooth stone ledge warmed faintly by the last memory of the day's sun. Around you, the high peaks cradle the valley like guardians of another age. In this silence, this vast cosmic quiet, you feel time loosen. The present drifts away, and you find yourself slipping into the slow rhythm of the mountains the way people have for thousands of years. This is the beginning of Shiva's story, or perhaps it is the place where you become quiet enough to hear it. A faint breeze rises carrying the scent of snow and cedar, the hint of distant incense drifting from an unseen shrine. The wind seems to speak in low, almost musical tones. In its soft breath you sense the first traces of a presence far older than the path that brought you here. The mountains are not merely stone and ice, they are memory. They are the backdrop of an ancient world, a living stage upon which gods, sages, and travelers moved long before your own footsteps stirred the dust. Up here, where the earth rises toward the heavens, the veil between the mortal and the divine has always felt thinner. As the moon climbs above the ridgeline, its pale light falls across the cliffs like a blessing. You watch as the shadows stretch, and the stones seem to awaken, glowing gently under the lunar glow. People have long said that the moon itself rests upon the matted locks of a great ascetic, a god who tames its cool, shining power. And in this moment you can almost imagine that if you reached out your hand, you would brush against the fringe of his presence. You breathe in deeply, slowly. The wind continues its ancient murmur. And the story begins. Far below, tucked into a fold of the mountainside, small oil lamps flicker along the walls of a modest stone shrine. Pilgrims have left their offerings, a trail of wildflowers, bowls of fresh spring water leaves of the sacred bilva tree, and a simple lingam carved from river-worn stone. There is nothing extravagant here, and yet everything feels profoundly sacred. This is how the earliest worship of Shiva likely began, quiet, intimate, woven into the natural world. Some scholars believe that before he became the great god of destruction and transformation, Shiva lived in the hearts of mountain tribes, forest dwellers, and wandering ascetics who found divinity not in palaces, but in the stillness of nature, in the hush of wind, in the roar of a river, in the fire that burns behind closed eyes. Even before temples rose, before scriptures formed, before chants echoed across civilizations, the spirit that would one day be called Shiva already existed not as a figure, but as a feeling, a presence, a force. You close your eyes and the mountaintop seems to breathe with you. In the darkness you sense how ancient the story is. You sense the layers of memory that lie beneath it, memory of rituals whispered around night fires of prayers, carried on incense winds of early humans trying to understand the wild, immense beauty around them. To them, the mountains must have seemed alive, pulsing with invisible power. Somewhere in those early imaginings, Shiva began to take shape. Not yet the Nataraja, the Lord of Dance, not yet the yogi cloaked in ash, not yet the blue-throated protector or the gentle father of Ganesha, but something simpler, a sacred presence in the wilderness the embodiment of nature's quiet strength and untamed mystery. You open your eyes again. The moonlight glimmers on the snow peaks, making them appear ethereal, almost floating. You feel as though the mountains themselves are watching over you, ancient and patient. The people who once lived in these highlands believed that the mountains were the pillars of the universe, the connection between earth and sky. They believed that the gods dwelled in the silence of high places where the wind speaks more clearly and the heart can finally hear. Shiva, they said, was the one who listened to the world when it grew too loud, the one who could hear the heartbeat of the cosmos beneath the noise of human struggle. It is said that once you rise high enough, you are no longer separate from the divine, you are immersed in it. And so you sit, letting the mountain quiet, seep into your bones. In the centuries to come, poets would write of Shiva's home on Mount Kailash, the spiritual axis of the world. Though no human has ever climbed its peak, it stands like a great frozen throne, its ridges shaped as though carved by celestial hands. From its slopes flow 4 sacred rivers that nourish the vast lands of India and Tibet. To millions, Kailash is not merely a mountain, it is a symbol of enlightenment, a gateway to transcendence. Tonight, the mountain ridge that rises before you feels like a distant reflection of Kailash, or perhaps a whisper of it. As the wind brushes past you, imagine ancient pilgrims making their way northward, climbing rugged paths with simple sandals and boundless devotion. They walk not because they sought miracles, but because they sought understanding, the kind of understanding that comes only in silence. And it was in this silence that Shiva's earliest worshippers likely heard the faint pulse of sacred sound, the sound that would one day become mantra, a vibration felt more than spoken, a seed syllable stirring in the soul. Perhaps it rose first as a hum in the chest. Perhaps it tasted like breath, like the soft release of air on a cold mountain night. Perhaps it was nothing more than the wordless awe that humans have always felt when gazing at stars scattered across the sky. But whatever it was, it endured. It grew. It became sacred. The soft murmur of Om, the whispered reverence of Nama, and the tender invocation Shivaya. These sounds would one day echo in temples, caves, forests, shrines, and homes across thousands of years. But here in this moment, they are only beginning. You lean back against the stone, feeling its cool solidity support you. The mountains stretch endlessly around you. Above, the stars shimmer like tiny worlds, and within you something begins to settle, a peace, a stillness, a sense of connection to something far beyond sight. The wind quiets, the night deepens, and as you breathe slowly, softly, you feel as though the story, like the mountains, has only just begun. A gentle silence follows, holding you in its cradle. The first breath of creation. Night thins into a gray-blue hush, and you feel dawn arriving, the way a tide returns, soundless at first, then softly, steadily filling every hollow with light. Frost clings to the grass beside you, catching the earliest rays like a necklace of tiny suns. Far away, a conch shell moans from a village shrine. The wind quiets as if the mountain itself is listening for something older than wind, older than stone, the first breath. You draw your shawl around your shoulders, your lungs taste of cedar and thin air. In this threshold hour when day and night are still clasping hands, you begin to sense the world the way the ancients did, as a rhythm, not a clock, as a breathing, not a machine. In their songs and meditations, they imagined the cosmos not as an empty room, but as a living ocean, pulsing with an invisible sound. You close your eyes and feel that pulse touch your chest. Om. Not spoken, not pushed, but released like mist from warm breath on a cold morning. The sages called it the pranava, the primordial syllable. In time, philosophers would say that all forms rise from it and return to it, like waves lifting and settling back into the sea. You do not need a treatise to understand this. The mountains teach it. The heartbeat teaches it. Dawn teaches it. In the oldest hymns there are questions asked in the tone of wonder, not certainty. What was there before there was anything? Was there a before? Who knows? Even the high gods may not know, for they came after creation. In this uncertainty lies a tenderness, a humility at the edge of mystery. You feel kindness in that not knowing a permission to rest inside the question. The ancient singers did not force an answer. They sang the feeling of awe itself. And into this awe, a figure begins to take shape, not yet the ash-smeared yogi of the high peaks, not yet the dancer of the fire circle, but a presence felt in thunder and stillness alike. The name was Rudra, the wild one, lord of wind and storm. He was a god who moved between edges, the healer whose arrow could also harm the wanderer, who haunted the margins where villages ended and forests began. People prayed to him in trembling words, asking his arrows to pass them by, asking his medicines to come close. You sense how early hearts recognize that the force that frightens can also cure, that lightning can split a tree and also open the sky to rain. As the centuries breathed in and out, Rudra began to unfold into Shiva. It was not a sudden change, but a gradual one, like snow becoming a river by spring. The wild and the gentle, the destroyer and the guardian, these did not cancel each other. They completed each other. Where storms had raged, stillness grew. Where fear had crouched, compassion stood up and lit a lamp. The stories that people told by firelight began to soften the edges, to bind the fierce and the kind into one sacred whole. You picture a circle of listeners in some ancient forest, clearing old hands, warming over coals, young faces glowing like embers, a storyteller's voice steady as a drumbeat. Listen, they would say, to how the world rises and falls in great cycles. One universe blooms like a lotus opening petal by petal. Then it withers and its seeds sleep until the next dawn of worlds. Creation is not a line, but a wheel turning through ages. Within that wheel a presence watches and waits, not indifferent, not grasping, but awake. That presence is Shiva. Even the air seems to lean closer as you imagine it. The first breath arrives, and with it, time wakes from its long sleep. You feel it as a slow sweep of light across the glacier. You feel it as the first bird calling from a pine. The world is not built by hammer and chisel. It is breathed like a song. In that breathing forms appear sky and earth, the meadows, and the rivers, the mountains piled like altars, the creatures that walk and swim and fly. You see the early people placing stones in sacred shapes beside streams, tracing the heavens with their fingertips, whispering gratitude to the powers that turn the great wheel. Shiva, the witnessing stillness within motion, is there from the beginning, both hidden and unmistakable. Not a king on a throne, not a judge with a scroll, but something subtler, the power that allows all things to arise and the mercy that allows them to pass away. When you think of destruction, you see brokenness, but when you feel it in your bones, you sense release. The leaf falls to feed the root. The old moon becomes the cradle of the new. The passing is not punishment, it is promise. The breeze slides through the conifers, making a soft oceanic sound. Ocean. Yes, that is how the earliest minds often described it, a churning sea of becoming and dissolving. Later generations would tell of gods and beings drawing treasures from that sea, healing herbs, shining jewels, immortal nectar, and also the world's deadliest poison, which Shiva would swallow for the sake of all. But those are chapters to come. For now, in this first breath, you feel only the swell and fall the hush before the drum. Your hands rest open on your knees. In the quiet, you begin to sense the shape of sound itself, the way it gathers in your chest, the way it blooms into the mouth and dissolves on the air. Sound is the first bridge between the unseen and the seen. No temple is needed yet. The body is the shrine breath, the lamp attention, the offering. When a mantra is born, it is born from the same dark sweetness as dawn, the place where silence ripens into voice. Om Namah Shivaya. You savor each syllable like warm tea. The mantra is not a spell to bend the world to your will. It is a bell to call your wandering mind home. Ancient teachers would one day say that the mantra honors the light within the self that is not chained to fear or time. But even before those teachings were composed, people knew it in their bodies. You feel it now. With each soft recitation, the heart unclenches a little, the face loosens, the thoughts drift like clouds away from the sun. In your mind's eye, the first sanctuaries appear, not the vast stone temples of later dynasties, but shelters of woven branches, caves with smoke-darkened ceilings, riverside clearings garlanded with wildflowers. A simple stone worn smooth by water stands upright in the earth. A small flame flickers. There is the scent of ghee and crushed leaves, the tang of night air. Hands pour water over the stone, an offering to the formless in a form. The earliest worship, like the first breath, is humble, lucid, tender. You reflect on how a myth becomes a teacher as steady as a mountain. It tells you what your life already knows. Everything you love will change. Everything you fear will pass. And in the space between, there is a quiet center where you can rest. To call that center Shiva is not to pin it down. It is to bow to it. The name is a doorway, not a wall. The conch sounds again, thinner now, farther away. The eastern sky brightens to rose. Snow on the far ridge blushes with a delicate light, as if the mountain remembers every dawn it has ever seen, and is smiling at this one too. Breathing slowly, you feel the pulse of the world ease into rhythm with your own. The first breath has become a second, then a third, and now the day is here. When you open your eyes, the world looks washed and new. Ravens cross the air with measured wings, and a prayer flag lifts and settles like a lung. You think of those ancient singers who admitted with grace that mystery cannot be swallowed whole. Their honesty feels like a friend. Their questions feel like a lamp. You rise not hurried, placing your palm against the rough bark of a pine. The tree stands at the edge of a precipice, roots gripping rock needles, sparkling with dew. Beneath you, a river threads silver through the dark floor of the valley. Somewhere you imagine a hermit is stirring a fire. Somewhere a child is rubbing sleep from her eyes. Somewhere a name is being spoken for the very first time this day, Shiva, and the sound brightens the morning, if only by a breath. The first breath of creation lingers in you as a promise that every beginning is held by something vast and kind, and that every ending opens the same door. You turn your face toward the path. The wind lifts, carrying the faint echo of a drumbeat. You cannot yet place a rhythm like footsteps, soft, assured. And with that gentle music you step toward the next chapter, where the storm god will soften into the auspicious one, and the wild edges of Rudra will flow into the serene presence of Shiva. Rudra becomes Shiva. Morning has risen fully now, though here in the high mountains daylight feels different, lighter, as though it drifts down from a world above the sky. The pale sun touches the snow peaks, turning them to shimmering gold. Mist curls around the pines, hugging the slopes like a veil that has not yet decided whether to lift or linger. And you walk slowly, unhurried along a quiet trail, etched into the mountainside. Birdsong comes in soft threads. A single yak bell rings in the distance. The earth beneath your feet is cool and firm, still damp from the breath of the night. With each step you feel more deeply connected to the land and the long history that lies beneath its surface, layers upon layers of belief, ritual, story, and silence. Today, the tale shifts. The wind carries a name older than temples, older than myths carved in stone Rudra. You pause listening, not to a sound but to a feeling, a stirring, like the distant rumble of a storm. The ancients spoke of Rudra as the howling one, the spirit who roamed lonely forests, deserts, and high places. He was feared, yet revered. He could strike like lightning, swift and terrifying, but could also heal with herbs known only to him. His arrows brought disease, his medicines cured it. In the earliest hymns of the Rigveda, people called out to him with trembling voices, "Do not harm us, Rudra. Bring us your healing instead." He was not a god of comfort. He was not gentle. He was raw force, wild, uncontained, like wind sweeping through a barren gorge. As you continue walking, you begin to sense why the earliest people feared him. Nature in those ancient times was not merely scenery. It was a powerful, unpredictable presence. Storms could flatten homes. Wild beasts could strike in the dark. Illness could arrive like an arrow. To understand the world was to understand danger and to honor it. Rudra embodied that understanding, yet even in fear there was reverence. Those who prayed to him acknowledged that the same force that destroys also protects. The same storm that uproots trees brings rain to the earth. The same fire that devours the forest clears the way for new life. This is how Rudra began to transform. Not abruptly, but gradually, the way winter softens into spring. The frightening edges of his image slowly rounded. The ferocity softened into dignity. People began to glimpse something compassionate behind the thunder. In the hymns, a shift appears. Rudra is no longer only the archer whose shafts bring pain. He becomes the healer whose knowledge is unmatched. The solitary wanderer becomes the protector of cattle, of forests, of sacred spaces. The wild roar becomes a whisper of comfort to those who suffer. This slow evolution, the merging of fear and devotion, was the first step toward Shiva. You come upon a clearing now, a quiet space encircled by tall deodar trees. Their branches sway gently overhead, each needle catching a drop of sunlight. In the center of the clearing stands a stone, simple, uncarved, worn smooth by wind and time. At its base lies a garland of fresh flowers. Someone has been here not long ago. This stone is not a relic of Rudra's era. No archaeological certainty ties it to those forgotten centuries. But it feels like an echo of that time, a reminder that the sacred often began in places just like this, untouched by tools, untouched by walls, shaped only by reverence. You kneel beside the stone. The earth is soft beneath your knees, carrying the scent of moss and pine resin. Your fingers brush the petals of the garland, still cool with morning dew. And as you sit quietly, a story rises in your mind like a memory older than your own life. There were people long ago who wandered these mountains with nothing but a staff, a bowl, and the desire to understand the world. They sought solitude, not society. They sought silence, not discourse. And they knew Rudra intimately, for he was the god of their world, the god of the wild, the god who heard the prayers of those who lived far from civilization. Some say it was these wandering ascetics whose devotion shaped Rudra into Shiva. Their longing for inner peace softened the fierce deity. Their meditations revealed the divine silence behind the storm. Their austerities birthed a new vision, a god who embodies serenity as much as power. That transformation is visible in the earliest Upanishads, where Rudra becomes the auspicious one, the gentle one, the one whose presence brings peace. This is the meaning of the word Shiva, auspicious, benevolent, kind. The storm god had begun to open into a deeper, broader form. His wildness did not vanish, it matured. His solitude did not isolate, it illuminated. His arrows did not only wound, they cut through illusion. Over generations, the people saw in Shiva not just destruction, but liberation. Not just ferocity, but deep compassion. He became the yogi, the meditator, the Lord of Stillness, who sits on snow-covered peaks and contemplates the nature of reality. You can feel that shift even now. The clearing holds a hush that is not empty but full, like a breath held in reverence. Rudra's storm has quieted into Shiva's stillness. You rise slowly and walk deeper into the grove. Light filters through the trees, scattering gold across the ground. The air hums with a peaceful energy. In this place you begin to sense Shiva's emerging qualities. A figure takes shape in your imagination, not wild-eyed, not wrathful, but serene. His hair piled high like a crown of matted river roots, a crescent moon resting on the curve of his locks, a snake coiled loosely around his neck, its gaze steady and unafraid. Ash covers his skin, but it glows as if lit from within by the fire of knowledge, not destruction. This is Shiva, no longer the feared Rudra, but a god of paradoxes beautifully held together. He is the stillness at the heart of the storm. He is destruction as a path to renewal. He is solitude that creates compassion. He is the ascetic who inspires devotion. And in your chest, a new understanding rises gentle like a leaf drifting down. Transformation does not erase what came before. It expands it. Rudra is not lost in Shiva. He is fulfilled in Shiva. The wild becomes wisdom. The lonely becomes universal. The fierce becomes benevolent. This is the myth's lesson, that even the most untamed forces can become guides, and that every being carries the seed of its own transformation. A breeze sighs through the trees, cool and fragrant. The petals of the garland tremble. You feel something shift inside you, a calm recognition that change, even when violent or sudden, is always part of a larger unfolding. The world is not static. People are not static. Gods, too, evolve in the hearts of those who seek them. And so Rudra becomes Shiva, and the story moves from fear to reverence, from wildness to wisdom, from storm to meditation. You step back into the trail, the clearing fading behind you like a memory. Ahead, the path dips toward a ridge bathed in sunlight. Somewhere beyond that ridge, the great ascetic waits seated immovably in a realm of stillness that no storm can breach. You take a slow breath, letting the transformation settle. The Lord of Yogis, the Lord of Stillness. The path winds upward, and the air grows quieter as you climb. Even the bird song fades into the distance, leaving only the soft crunch of gravel beneath your feet, and the sigh of the mountain wind brushing past your ears. The sun has risen, but its warmth is gentle here, filtered by drifting veils of cloud that skim the ridgeline like slow-moving ghosts. Every step feels as though it carries you deeper into an older world, a world shaped not by noise or haste, but by silence. Ahead, the trail narrows into a ledge overlooking a vast open valley. You pause there, catching your breath, letting your gaze sweep across a landscape carved by eons. The valley floor glitters faintly with waterways, their silver threads weaving patterns through grasslands and dark forests. Beyond them rise towering cliffs, sheer and imposing their faces, scarred by centuries of wind and ice. But it is the mountain beyond them that draws your eyes, a peak of impossible stillness, where the air seems to rest in reverence, where the light holds its breath. Even from this distance you recognize it, the mountain of lore, the throne of silence, Kailash. A shiver passes through you not of cold, but of recognition. For centuries upon centuries, pilgrims have walked impossible distances to glimpse this mountain, believing it to be the axis where heaven and earth meet. They approached not to conquer it, for no one climbs Kailash, but to bow to the one who sits upon it in eternal meditation, Shiva, the Lord of Yogis. You begin descending from the ledge, taking a narrow path that leads toward a sheltered cove in the mountainside. As you walk, the air grows denser with quiet. It is not an empty silence. It is a presence thick, warm, almost alive. You inhale deeply, and your breath slows without you willing it. Something in this place teaches the body to soften the heartbeat, to steady the mind, to ease into stillness. That is the power of Shiva's domain. You reach the cove, a natural amphitheater of stone. Here the wind hushes completely. The sunlight becomes diffuse like the glow of a hidden fire. And at the center of this sanctuary, seated upon a low stone platform, you imagine the figure of the great yogi. He sits unmoving, not rigid, not tense, but effortlessly, profoundly still. His eyes are half-lidded as though gazing inward at a universe of infinite depth. His skin is marked with ash, reminding you of creation's cycle, creation, dissolution, rebirth. Across his shoulders, a tiger skin lies soft like a whisper. His hair rises in matted locks that coil and spill like rivers, frozen in the moment of falling. Within them the crescent moon glows faintly, symbol of time, yet untouched by time. Around his neck rests a serpent, coiled with serene patience, its presence one of companionship rather than fear. The snake does not threaten. It transforms, shedding old skins, reminding you that even the past can be left behind. This is the Lord of Stillness, yet from him emanates an energy that feels like the center of all movement. You sit across from him, lowering yourself onto the stone floor. The cold stone presses through your clothing, anchoring you to the present. You fold your legs, rest your palms upon your knees, and breathe in slowly. And as you sit there, something extraordinary happens. The world around you does not disappear, but it becomes quiet in a way you have never known. The mind's noise, that constant whisper of thoughts, begins to dissolve like mist in sunlight. Your muscles release their hidden tension. The rhythm of your breath grows even. You feel as though you are sinking gently into a pool of warm, infinite calm. This is dhyana. This is yogic stillness. This is the essence of Shiva, not a trance, not an escape, but a deep awareness, soft, clear, spacious. In this awareness, the stories say, Shiva sees all worlds at once. He sees the rising and falling of universes as naturally as a human watches waves roll upon a shore. He sees the birth of galaxies and the fading of stars, the unfolding of ages, and the blink of an eye as equal moments in the endless tapestry of time. Yet he does not cling to any of it. He is the witness, the Sakshi, the one who watches without fear, without desire, without attachment. As you breathe, you sense why the sages named him Mahadeva, the great god. Not because he rules with force, but because he rules with stillness. His power is not thunder, it is silence. His presence is not loud, it is vast. And you feel something else too, something tender, something human. Behind the ash and the austerity, Shiva is not distant, he is compassionate. For the legends say that any one king or beggar sage or wanderer who sits in true stillness may sit beside him. The path of meditation has no gate, no lock, no hierarchy. It belongs to all. That is why he is called Adi Yogi, the first yogi. He is the origin of the yogic path, the teacher whose lessons are not spoken, but felt. You imagine the ancient ascetics who once sat in mountain caves listening for the heartbeat of the universe. They were not philosophers seeking fame. They were seekers longing for truth. They looked to Shiva not as a distant divine figure, but as a guide, someone who had already walked the inward path they wished to walk. And so the myth became a teaching. If you wish to understand your own mind, sit in silence. If you wish to understand the world, first understand yourself. If you wish to touch the eternal, let go of the temporary. You breathe again, slow, steady. The great yogi continues his silent meditation. The air glows faintly around him, though no flame burns. The valley, the mountains, the sky, they all feel part of a single, boundless stillness. After a long moment, the faintest sound reaches your ears, a tremble of bells, drifting from the far valley, the gentle chant of early morning prayers. The world is waking, yet you feel no urgency to move. Something inside you has shifted. You have touched a small corner of the vast quiet that Shiva holds effortlessly. You rise softly. Your limbs feel light, unburdened. The air brushes your cheeks as though bidding you to carry this peace with you. As you step out of the cove, the sunlight breaks fully across the valley, painting the world in gold. Behind you, the image of Shiva remains stillness, incarnate, the heart of the mountain. Ahead of you, a new chapter begins to unfold. Love devotion, the dance of patience and destiny. Parvati's devotion, the dance of love and patience. The path bends gently downward, and the landscape begins to soften. The air warms, touched by the sweet fragrance of rhododendron blossoms, drifting across the hillside. Far below, the valley unfurls like a green tapestry, terraced fields, winding footpaths, and clusters of simple homes where smoke rises in thin silver spirals. The mountains remain behind you, ancient and solemn, but ahead the world feels gentler, touched by a quiet, blooming beauty. You walk slowly, letting the rhythm of your footsteps carry you as the sky turns to a soft, pearly blue. A distant lake reflects the morning sun, its surface trembling like a mirror, disturbed by breath alone. Somewhere close, a stream murmurs over smooth stones. The hush of Shiva's stillness lingers within you, like a deep note that continues to vibrate long after the drum has fallen silent. It is here, in this peaceful, earthly world, that another story begins, a story of devotion, of longing, of love born from patience deeper than the mountains themselves, Parvati. Her name floats through your mind like a petal carried on the wind, daughter of the mountains, embodiment of fertility, grace, and unyielding determination. The gentle power who would one day sit beside the great yogi, balancing his austerity with her warmth. But her journey to Shiva was neither simple nor swift. It was a pilgrimage of the heart, one that unfolded across lifetimes. You come to a clearing where wildflowers sway in soft waves, crimson, gold, white, violet. The air is filled with a faint humming, the sound of bees gathering nectar, the sound of life, eager and unafraid. You sit upon a smooth rock at the edge of the clearing and close your eyes. Imagine now a different time, a different mountain valley, a palace carved into the slopes, its halls filled with bird song, its gardens shimmering with dew. Parvati's father, King Himavan, cherished her more dearly than the rivers loved their own waters. She grew surrounded by gentleness, yet within her a fierce destiny stirred. For even as a child, Parvati felt drawn to Shiva, not to his divine splendor, but to his stillness, his depth, his truth. An attraction born not of illusion, but of recognition. In earlier ages, she had been Sati Shiva's wife, who gave up her life to defend his honor. And now reborn as Parvati, she carried that love like a quiet ember waiting to rise once more into flame. When she came of age, she saw Shiva again, seated in meditation upon the mountain heights, unmoving, untouched by worldly concerns. She approached him with offerings, flowers, fruits, sacred leaves. But Shiva was deep in meditation, far beyond the reach of earthly affection. He did not open his eyes. Parvati bowed her head, not in disappointment, but in understanding. Love, she knew, is not seized. It is earned through patience, purity, and steadfastness. And so she began her tapas, her austerities. You open your eyes. The clearing around you seems brighter now, its colors richer. Perhaps this is how the world looked to Parvati when she began her long meditation. She abandoned her ornaments, her silks, her comforts, choosing instead the shelter of forests. She wore bark garments. She lived on fruits, then leaves, then simply air itself. Her body grew thin, yet her spirit grew radiant, fueled by devotion that burned with a steady, unwavering flame. Months turned into years, seasons circled like slow, patient wheels. The snow came covering her like a shroud. The monsoon came washing her like a blessing. But Parvati remained unmoved. Her meditation was not a plea, it was a vow. Ancient texts tell us that even the gods marveled at her determination. The air around her shimmered with tapashakti, the power generated by deep spiritual discipline. Animals gathered near her shelter, not to disturb her, but to bask in her peace. Trees bent their branches as if shielding her from the harsh sun. Shiva, still deep in his meditation, felt none of this at first. But eventually even he could not remain untouched. A warmth entered his consciousness, subtle but persistent, like the first rays of dawn touching a sleeper's eyelids. He opened his eyes and sensed something extraordinary in the world, a devotion so pure it had changed the very air. Shiva rose from his meditation and walked down the mountainside. The world seemed to brighten as he passed clouds, parting winds, pausing rivers, humming in gentle tones. And when he reached Parvati's forest dwelling, he found her seated beneath a tree, her body frail, her spirit shining. Her eyes opened. They met his. And in that shared gaze, ages of longing fell away. Shiva spoke softly. Your devotion is deeper than the seas, your patience greater than the mountains. Your love unbroken by suffering has reached even me. Parvati bowed, but Shiva lifted her gently. Walk beside me, he said. For ascetic and householder shall balance one another. You breathe in the scent of the clearing a mixture of sun-warmed petals and distant snowmelt. You feel Parvati's devotion not as a legend, but as something living, something real. The story carries an ancient lesson. Love need not chase. Love need not demand. Love becomes irresistible when it becomes pure. Parvati's journey reveals a truth older than Scripture, that discipline and tenderness are not opposites, but companions. That devotion transforms both the one who gives and the one who receives, that even the stillest heart can respond to sincere, steady love. You stand and begin to walk again, leaving the clearing behind. The trail narrows into a corridor of tall grass, each blade glistening with droplets like strings of tiny pearls. A warm wind stirs the meadow. For a moment it sounds like distant laughter, light, joyful, free. Perhaps that is Parvati whispering across time. Ahead the path rises toward a gentle ridge. Beyond it lies the next chapter, the story of their children, whose births shaped the mythic world as deeply as their parents' love shaped the heavens. You let out a slow sigh, the kind that softens the heart. The sun warms your face. Your steps feel light. 2 suns, 2 paths, Ganesha and Kartikeya. The trail curves gently upward, following a ridge where the sky stretches wide and open the color of pale lapis. A warm breeze brushes your cheeks, carrying with it the mingled scents of mountain sage and distant blossoms. The world feels softer here, less carved by ice, more shaped by sunlight, and the footsteps of quiet pilgrims who walked these lands long before you. You pause for a moment at the ridge's crest. Below lies a hidden valley, lush and green, cupped tenderly between 2 arms of the mountain. A small river snakes through it, catching the sun in bright shimmering flashes. In its gentle murmur, you sense a story unfolding, one filled with warmth, family ties, and the echoes of divine childhood. Here begins the tale of Shiva and Parvati's 2 sons. 2 spirits born from the same divine union, yet destined for paths as different as moonlight and flame. Ganesha, the child of wisdom. You descend toward the valley and the air grows sweeter, as though warmed by affection itself. As your steps slow, you imagine a humble cottage nestled in the heart of the forest, a soft golden light glowing from within. It is evening there. Parvati sits in quiet serenity, her mind at peace. In this moment of stillness, she creates a form from the earth round, gentle, perfect in its simplicity. With love alone, she breathes life into him. Ganesha, a boy with eyes bright as morning, a smile that softens even the sternest heart. Parvati shapes him not to wield power, but to guard her privacy, to stand at her door with innocence and loyalty. He holds a small staff in his hand, proud of his duty, unaware of the vast destiny that awaits him. Time shifts as softly as a curtain drawn aside. One day Shiva returns from meditation, his presence as immense as thunder, his brow calm but powerful. He approaches Parvati's chamber only to be stopped by the small boy standing guard. "I cannot let you enter, Ganesha," says voice full of earnest devotion. "My mother rests." Shiva, unused to being questioned, warns him gently, but Ganesha stands firm, his courage shining like a small flame before a storm. What follows is a moment that will echo through ages, a moment of misunderstanding, of fate, of transformation. The stories differ in the telling. Some say Shiva's attendants fought Ganesha. Others say Shiva himself acted, but all agree that in the end, the child lost his head not as punishment, but as part of a cosmic unfolding too profound for mortal thought. Parvati's cry shakes the heavens. Her grief becomes a river no dam can hold. And Shiva, moved by her sorrow, his heart softened by understanding, promises to restore the boy to life. He sends his followers northward, declaring, "Bring me the head of the first living being facing north." That head belongs to an elephant, noble, wise, ancient. And so Ganesha rises again, child of earth and breath, now blessed with wisdom as vast as the forest itself. the gentle protector, the remover of obstacles, the guardian of beginnings. You feel warmth settle in your chest as the valley breeze stirs the grass around you. Ganesha's presence is like that breeze, comforting, familiar, steady. A reminder that even from sorrow, new purpose can arise, that obstacles can become guides. That wisdom often comes wrapped in compassion. You walk on, and the valley begins to brighten with a deeper, more fiery glow. For now comes the story of the other sun, Kartikeya, the warrior of the skies. Far to your right, the land begins to lift again, rising into steep ridges where the wind grows sharper, almost metallic. Here the air tastes of adventure, of thunder, of a flame, waiting to leap skyward. Kartikeya, born of divine fire, created to lead armies against forces that threatened the cosmic order. His birth is a story of sparks and celestial purpose, 6 divine mothers nurturing him, 6 faces, seeing in all directions at once, his destiny already etched into the stars. He is the opposite of Ganesha in many ways. Where Ganesha moves with patience, Kartikeya moves with speed. Where Ganesha solves obstacles, Kartikeya cuts through them. Where Ganesha sits in peaceful contemplation, Kartikeya rides forward on a peacock of radiant feathers. You imagine him standing on a hilltop, young, brilliant, fierce as sunrise. In his hand the spear-bell symbol of piercing clarity. Behind him the sky stretches wide, an open road for his fearless spirit. He becomes the commander of the celestial hosts, the general, against chaos, the embodiment of courage. And yet, even in his strength, there is gentleness. Even in his fiery destiny, there is grace. For Kartikeya's story is not only about battles. It is about purpose, the calling each soul must answer. It is about the fire within that drives us to stand for what matters. 2 suns, 2 worlds. As you walk through the valley, you feel the contrast between the energies of the brothers, one soothing like a lantern's glow, the other bright like a blade catching sun. Yet they do not compete, they complete. Ganesha teaches that the world can be approached with understanding, patience, and wisdom. Kartikeya teaches that some fights must be faced, that courage, too, is a form of devotion, that action is sometimes prayer made visible. Both are beloved, both are divine. Both arise from the union of Shiva and Parvati, a union of stillness and devotion, of meditation and love. In them, the mythic archetypes unfold effortlessly, the sage child and the warrior child, the gentle protector and the fiery champion, the remover of obstacles and the conqueror of fear. And you realize this story is not only about gods, it is about life. One part of you is Ganesha seeking peace, wisdom, understanding. Another part is Kartikeya, bold, determined, ready to rise. Both paths belong to you. A warm gust lifts the meadow grass as you reach the far edge of the valley. Ahead, a steep trail climbs toward a high forest, darker, older, filled with the scent of cedar and the distant echo of chanting. The next story waits there, a tale of oceans churned, of poison, rising of sacrifice so deep it changed the very color of Shiva's throat. You breathe in softly, letting the valley slip away behind you. Your steps carry you upward, toward darkness, toward light, toward the churning of worlds. The poison of the universe. The blue-throated one. The trail narrows again as you climb, and the sunlight begins to thin, filtered now through tall cedars whose branches weave a dark green canopy overhead. The air grows cooler, still fragrant, but touched by a deeper earthiness. Moss softens the stones beneath your feet. Somewhere to your left, hidden behind the trunks, A stream murmurs like a quiet secret the forest mutters only to itself. You follow the sound of water until you reach a small pool fed by the stream. Its surface trembles as droplets fall from overhanging leaves. You crouch beside it, scoop a handful of the icy water, and feel it tingle across your palms. For a moment, the forest seems to fade. The air thickens with an ancient story, one older than the mountains surrounding you, a story of oceans, of gods, of demons, of a poison that threatened to unmake the world, and of the one who drank it so that life could continue. The churning of the cosmic ocean. Close your eyes for just a breath, and the forest around you dissolves into another scene entirely. You see the great ocean endless, dark, and swirling, beneath a sky woven with lightning and gold. Around its vast shores stand two opposing hosts, the Devas, radiant celestial beings, and the Asuras, fierce and determined. For once they share a common purpose to churn the primordial waters and retrieve from its depths the treasures lost during the cosmic cycles. This is Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk. You feel the ground tremble as the mountain Mandara is lifted and placed at the ocean's center. The serpent Vasuki coils around it like a rope. With Devas taking one end, Asuras the other, the great churning begins a pull and release a push and strain a cosmic rhythm that shakes the universe itself. The waters foam, the sky crackles. From the depths rise wonders beyond imagination, the moon, the wish-granting cow, celestial nymphs, the divine physician, and finally the nectar of immortality. But before any of these treasures emerge, before the world receives the gifts that will sustain it, something else rises first, something dreadful. Hala hala, the poison that could end all life. A dark plume erupts from the churning ocean, swirling like smoke, glowing like embers. It spreads across the sky, thick, burning, suffocating. This is hala hala, a poison so potent that even a single breath of it could destroy worlds. The Devas recoil. The Asuras stumble back. Even the ocean roils in fear. Mountains tremble. Stars flicker. Forests wither beneath its shadow. The gods, desperate, turn to one another, but no one knows what to do. The poison rises faster, spreading through the heavens, threatening to unravel creation itself. In that moment of dread, the same truth dawns on every mind. There is only one who can face this poison, only one who walks between life and death as easily as a bird glides between air currents, only one whose strength is not of force, but of depth. Shiva, Shiva's descent. Open your eyes gently. The forest around you darkens as if remembering the moment the world once held its breath. Shiva appears not as a warrior, not as a king, but as the still ascetic you saw in earlier chapters, serene, poised, untouched by panic. He walks calmly into the gathering of gods, his matted locks swaying like quiet rivers, his eyes deep as the sky before dawn. Only you can save us, the Devas say. Shiva does not answer immediately, not out of hesitation, but out of awareness. He sees the suffering that will spread. He sees the fear in every heart. He sees the fragility of life and the delicate thread that holds the cosmos together. And in his compassion, he chooses. Without dramatic proclamation, without waiting for celestial fanfare, he steps forward. He cups his hands. He draws the swirling poison toward himself, and he drinks it. The poison burns like 1,000 suns. It scorches the air. It tears through him like a storm of fire. Yet Shiva remains still. His throat clouds with blue flame. The gods cry out. Parvati rushes to his side, pressing her hand gently to his neck to prevent the poison from descending into his heart. Her touch holds the deadly force in place. And so Shiva becomes Nilkanth, the blue-throated one, the one who swallowed death so that life might continue. The forest remembers. You rise slowly, feeling the soft earth beneath your feet. The pool before you reflects your face, the trees, the drifting clouds. But somewhere beneath the reflection, beneath the ripples, you sense another truth reflected back at you. Sacrifice is not always loud. True strength is often quiet. Compassion sometimes looks like suffering willingly taken on for the sake of others. The story of Hala Hala is not only about cosmic events, it is about the inner poison we all carry, our fears, our anger, our grief. Shiva's act reminds you that facing darkness is not weakness, it is courage, it is transcendence. Some scholars interpret this myth as symbolic. Shiva holds the poison at his throat, not absorbing it, not denying it, but containing it, transforming it. He neither becomes the poison, nor lets it seep into his being. He holds it with awareness, just as we hold our pain with mindfulness without letting it define who we are. A soft return. The wind stirs the cedar branches. A beam of sunlight slips through the canopy, warming your face. Birdsong returns a single note, then another. You breathe in deeply, letting the story settle like incense in your chest. Ahead, the forest thins, opening into a wide plateau where firelight dances against stone. There, a new chapter begins, one filled with drums' flames and the dance that shapes the universe itself. You step forward, drawn gently by the rhythm you cannot yet hear, but already feel. The Lord of the Dance. The forest begins to thin as you follow the winding trail, and soon the heavy canopy gives way to open sky. The late afternoon sunlight stretches long and golden across the rocky plateau ahead. The air feels warmer here, touched by a faint scent of smoke and something sweeter, like the lingering fragrance of flowers burnt in ritual. You climb a short rise and step into a broad circular clearing, and then you see them, torches, dozens of them. Their flames bend and sway in the wind like living, breathing dancers. In the center of this natural amphitheater stands a great ring of stones. Each stone is tall and weathered its surface, etched faintly with carving spirals, crescents, and symbols worn soft by time. This place feels older than temples, older than memory, a place where the earth itself once watched gods walk and dance. You sit on a flat rock at the clearing's edge. You feel the warmth of the air, the low hum of the wind, and the hush of expectation, as though the land is readying itself for a story woven of fire and rhythm. This is the chapter of Nataraja Shiva as the cosmic dancer, the stillness. Before the drum, close your eyes lightly. Listen. At first there is only wind, then faintly a drumbeat, deep, slow, steady. It feels less like a sound and more like a heartbeat echoing through the body of the world. As the drum continues, the air around you begins to change. Shadows lengthen, the torches flicker with sudden intensity, the very ground beneath your feet seems to pulse. The universe, the sages say, is born not from silence alone, but from rhythm, from vibration, from movement, from dance. And Shiva is that dance. The emergence of Nataraja. You open your eyes, and before you, as if drawn from the swirling shadows, the form of Shiva as Nataraja appears. His body glows with an otherworldly radiance, neither blinding nor dim, but shimmering with the warmth of firelight. His long, matted hair fans outward, swirling around him like a halo of flowing flames. Within his locks the crescent moon gleams softly, and the river Ganga dances in her tiny form. His upper right hand holds the damaru, the small two-headed drum, whose rhythmic beats are said to form the very syllables of creation. Each pulse of the drum feels like a star being born bright sudden full of promise. His upper left hand holds a flame, the fire of dissolution, the fire that burns not to destroy, but to transform. One hand is raised in blessing, another points downward toward his lifted foot, the foot that signifies liberation, release from illusion. Beneath his right foot lies Apasmara, the dwarf of ignorance, not crushed by hatred, but held down gently by truth. A reminder that illusion persists only when left untended. Around him rises a great circle of flames, the Prabhamandala, the ring of light that symbolizes the endless cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. Within this circle Shiva dances, not wildly, not furiously, but with a grace so profound it feels like the quiet at the center of a storm. His movements are both motion and stillness, both creation and destruction, both beginning and ending. For in Shiva's dance, the universe finds its heartbeat, the cosmic meaning. As you watch Nataraja in your mind's eye, you begin to understand why scholars, philosophers, and devotees alike have found endless meaning in this depiction. The dance is not merely performance, it is cosmology, it is philosophy, it is the eternal truth of existence made visible. The Damaru symbolizes the vibration from which creation springs the primordial sound, the beginning of time. The flame symbolizes the dissolution into which all must eventually fade, but with the promise of rebirth. The lifted foot offers refuge to the weary soul, a reminder that liberation is always possible. The right foot pressing down on ignorance teaches that truth is not violent. It is steady, calm, and grounding. The circle of fire is the wheel of existence, a dance in which all beings participate knowingly or unknowingly. Even Shiva's serene face holds meaning. It is neither stern nor joyous, but deeply peaceful, the expression of one who sees the entire universe unfolding and remains undisturbed. To see Nataraja, the legends say, is to glimpse the heartbeat of creation, a moment of stillness within the dance. The drum beat slows now, the wind softens, the torches flicker low, and you notice something remarkable. Though Shiva's body moves with immense force and grace, his expression remains calm, utterly, profoundly calm. This is the deepest lesson of his dance, that within motion lies stillness, within change lies continuity, within chaos lies rhythm. The world spins, yet the heart can remain centered. Life changes, yet the soul can remain free. You feel this truth settle in your chest like warm light, a balm against the hurriedness of the world you left behind. The dance fades into night. Slowly the brilliance of the vision grows softer, dimmer. Nataraja's form dissolves into the torch's wavering glow. The flames quiet. The shadows settle. You are again alone in the clearing, yet not truly alone, for the rhythm of the dance lingers within you steady as your own heartbeat. You stand, letting the last rays of sunlight touch your face. In the distance, night spreads across the sky like a velvet cloak. Stars awaken one by one, glimmering like sparks, cast from Shiva's dance. A gentle wind stirs. You wrap your shawl tighter around your shoulders. Your path now leads into deeper night, toward symbols, serpents, rivers, and moons, toward the sacred language of the God whose presence is everywhere. You take a slow, steady breath, feeling the warmth of the dance guide your steps. Symbols, serpents, crescent moon, and sacred rivers. Night has fallen gently like a velvet shawl placed across the shoulders of the earth. You walk beneath a sky woven with bright, unblinking stars. They glimmer like tiny flames, distant, eternal, serene. The air is cooler, now touched by the scent of night jasmine and the faint sweetness of ripening fruit somewhere far off in the dark. Crickets hum softly in the underbrush, creating a delicate rhythm that blends with the whisper of the breeze. You descend a stone path lined with moss. The torchlit memory of Shiva's cosmic dance still lingers in your chest, warm as an ember. Now the world around you seems charged with meaning. Every shadow, every rustle, every glint of moonlight feels like part of a deeper language, a language of symbols, a language whispered by Shiva himself. The crescent moon, time held gently. As you walk, the moon lifts above the treetops, a slender crescent, soft as a curved smile, delicate as a leaf's edge. It hangs just as it hangs in Shiva's matted locks, not as ornament, but as reminder. In the mythic world, the moon symbolizes time, the waxing and waning, the cycles of change, the flow of seasons, the rhythm of breathing and aging. But Shiva wears the moon not on his arm or chest, but on his head. It means that time does not rule him. He holds time gently like a flower tucked behind the ear. He watches it pass, but he is not bound by it. You pause for a moment, letting the moonlight brush your cheek. To the sages, this symbol means when you rise deep enough within your own being, the anxieties of time, aging lost deadlines, endings lose their sharpness. Time becomes something you observe, not something you fear. You breathe out softly. One worry, perhaps, slips away. The serpent power, without fear. As you continue along the path, you sense movement near your feet. A shadow glides across a rock, a serpent. But the sight does not startle you. Instead, it feels like recognition. The serpent is one of Shiva's most ancient companions. Vasuki coils around his neck, not as threat, but as friend, symbolizing the energy that flows through all beings. Kundalini, the dormant inner power, coiled at the base of the spine, waiting to rise through awareness. To wear a serpent is to wear fearlessness. The old myths say that serpents represent ego, and that Shiva is one who has mastered it so deeply that ego rests upon him like a harmless ornament. The serpent also symbolizes cycles, shedding old skins, transforming without resistance. A lesson whispered by the dark nothing in nature fears change. Only humans do. But change is the way into deeper life. You walk slowly, thoughtfully. Every symbol opens a doorway within you. The river Ganga, grace descending. Soon you hear another sound water flowing. You follow the path until it brings you to a shimmering river, its silver surface reflecting the moon and stars. This river, gentle and luminous in the night, calls to mind the great myth of the Ganga. The Ganga is said to have once roared through the heavens, powerful, uncontainable, a torrent that could have shattered the earth. But when she was asked to descend to help humanity, there was only one who could receive her with calm strength: Shiva. He caught her in his hair, let her flow gently through his locks, tamed her storm into a stream of compassion. This is why the river flows from his crown, not in violence, but in grace. You kneel at the river's edge, dip your fingers into its cool water. A thought rises like a ripple. What might happen if you allowed your own life's floods, your griefs, your disappointments, your storms, to flow through something steady, something patient, something vast within you? This is Shiva's message in the symbol of Ganga. Grace does not erase difficulty. It transforms its force. It makes the overwhelming flowable. It turns disasters into guidance. The water moves around your fingers softly as though answering your thoughts. Nandi, devotion, and steadfastness. Across the river you notice a shadowy stone form. You cross the water barefoot, the cold biting, invigorating, and approach the shape. It is a statue of Nandi, the sacred bull. His face is serene. His posture is unwavering. He looks toward some unseen shrine or sacred point. Nandi is the Vahan, the mount of Shiva. But more importantly, he is the first devotee, the one who sits before Shiva's abode in eternal meditation. To devotees, Nandi symbolizes patience, steadiness, faith, protection, a heart open and ready. Some say that before entering Shiva's temple, you whisper your prayers into Nandi's ear because he carries them straight to the heart of his Lord. You sit beside the stone bull, feeling the coolness of the rock, feeling his stillness seep into your own breath. Devotion, Nandi teaches, is not noise. It is waiting. It is trust. It is the strength to remain open. The lesson settles into your bones like warmth. Ashes, the truth of impermanence. A soft breeze stirs. You feel it brush your cheek like a ghost of memory. With the breeze comes the faint, dry scent of ash. Ash always accompanies Shiva, smeared on his skin, sprinkled upon his forehead. Why ash is what remains after fire has consumed everything. Ash is the reminder that all forms fade bodies, possessions, names, identities. To wear ash is to embrace truth, not morbidly, not sorrowfully, but with clarity. Ash says, what you cling to will pass, but what you truly are cannot burn. The breeze carries this message softly, and you feel something inside you loosen some old gripping, some old fear. A quiet ascent. You rise, leaving the river and Nandi behind. Ahead, a stone staircase winds upward, lit by the pale silver of the crescent moon. Each step echoes with a symbol, each symbol a doorway to understanding, each understanding a small liberation. You walk slowly, the night deepens, the world grows quieter still. And through the silence, a new story begins to form, one built of stone, and centuries of temples and rituals, of the living devotion of millions. Your journey now leads from symbols into history itself. Temples of stone and temples of the heart. The stone steps rise gently, carrying you toward higher ground, where the trees thin and the sky opens wide above. The moon floats like a silver lantern, casting soft light across the mountainside. Each step feels older than the last, worn smooth by countless pilgrims whose feet have followed this path across centuries. The air grows cooler, crisper, touched by a faint aroma of incense drifting from somewhere ahead, sandalwood perhaps, or the last sweet embers of a shrine fire. You reach a broad terrace carved into the hillside, and then you see it, a temple, not grand, not towering, but ancient, its stones darkened by monsoon rains, its carvings softened by time. Vines curl lovingly over its pillars, and wild flowers sway at its base. It stands quietly, like a memory made from stone and silence. You approach with slow, reverent steps. Inside, a single oil lamp glows. The flame dances gently, its light reflecting on the polished black surface of a Shiva lingam, simple, smooth, unadorned. Before it lie fresh offerings, a handful of bilva, leaves a bowl of river water, a garland of white blossoms. A temple of stone, a temple of devotion, a temple of breath and quietness. You kneel before the lingam, feeling the cool floor beneath your palms. In the hush of this ancient space, you sense the long, winding history that led to the billions of prayers whispered before forms like this one. The lingam shape of the formless. The lingam is not a statue. It has no face, no limbs, no posture. It is shape distilled to essence, symbol of the formless divine. Archaeologists have discovered similar stones in sites dating back thousands of years. Simple upright pillars in river valleys and forests, often found with water channels carved beside them. Some were worshipped in the Indus Valley millennia before the hymns of the Vedas were even composed. Others emerged in tribal shrines, in village groves, in caves lit only by torches. This continuity across cultures and ages reveals something profound that long before scriptures shaped theology, ordinary people experienced Shiva through nature, through stones worn smooth by rivers, through mountains rising like cosmic pillars, through the stillness that gathers in wild places. The lingam calls you back to that timeless connection. It does not instruct, it invites. And as you gaze at it, you feel something inside you grow still. Temples across time. You rise slowly and walk deeper into the sanctuary. The lamp flickers, casting shadows along the walls, shadows that reveal faint carvings, mountains, rivers, dancing forms, flowing hair, the outlines of serpents and moons. But this small shrine is only one thread in a vast tapestry of temples that stretch across India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Tibet, and beyond. Your mind drifts, and suddenly you see them. Stone temples of the Gupta age, elegant and restrained, shaped like mountain peaks, the first great flowering of Shiva temple architecture. The caves of Elephanta and Ellora, where stone pillars rise from the earth like ribs of the world, and monolithic sculptures breathe with ancient life. South India's Chola bronzes, where Nataraja gleams like molten fire, each curve a hymn, each gesture the universe captured in movement. The Himalayas' high sanctuaries, small windswept shrines perched above cloud lines where pilgrims leave footprints in the snow and prayers in the wind. Kashi's eternal city, where Shiva is said to whisper liberation into the ears of those who die within its sacred boundaries. Each temple is different. Each temple is the same. They are not built merely from stone, but from longing, devotion, surrender. Rituals that echo through centuries. The slow rhythm of ritual begins to play in your mind, a bronze bell ringing softly, hands pouring cool water over the lingam, a priest's whisper of Sanskrit verses older than history, the scent of incense rising like smoke from the dawn of creation, milk flowing in white streams, oil lamps circling in arcs of gold, soft chants weaving the air into a tapestry of sound, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. These rituals are not meant to persuade the divine, they are meant to soften the heart, to quiet the restless mind, to harmonize the inner and outer worlds. Every offering mirrors an inward gesture. Water cools the fire of desire, milk soothes the inner wounds, flowers express gratitude, light drives away the darkness within. Ritual at its heart is a meditation. And in Shiva's temples, meditation becomes devotion. Devotion becomes silence. Silence becomes clarity. Temples of the heart. You slowly leave the shrine, stepping back into the night air. The stars shimmer gently overhead. The moon slides behind clouds, leaving the world silver gray, and you realize something important. Not all temples are built of stone. Some temples are built of breath, some of memory, some of longing, some of quiet, some of the small luminous space inside the chest where truth settles and softens. This is the temple Shiva teaches most deeply, the temple of the heart. In that inner shrine there are no walls, no locks, no rituals required, only presence, only awareness, only the willingness to sit still. You close your eyes and feel at that quiet inner place you've carried since the beginning of your journey. Soft, spacious, radiant. Shiva has many temples, but the quiet one inside you may be the most ancient of all. The path ahead. As you stand at the terrace's edge, the winds shift, carrying a new sound, a low chant, rising from somewhere beyond the ridge. It is older than this temple, older than these mountains, older than memory. A mantra, sacred syllables that will form the heart of your next chapter. You step forward, guided by the chant, toward the birthplace of Shiva's sacred sounds, toward the origin of mantra. The birth of the powerful mantras. Night deepens as you walk beyond the ancient temple, the moon slipping behind a passing cloud. In the distance, the chanting you heard earlier grows clearer, soft, rhythmic, soothing. It echoes like a heartbeat carried by the wind. The sound guides you along a narrow footpath lined with low stone walls, almost swallowed by moss. The air grows warmer again, touched by the scent of smoldering ghee lamps. As you turn a bend, you see a glow ahead, a circle of firelight shimmering in the darkness. Drawn toward it, you approach a secluded grove where a group of forest sages sit beneath towering sal trees. Their faces are calm, illuminated by the flickering flames of a small sacred fire. Their breaths rise and fall in slow unison. Their eyes reflect the deep night, ancient and unshaken. You step quietly into the edge of the clearing. No one turns yet. You feel welcomed. Their chant continues, soft, resonant, timeless. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. It is a mantra, you know, but here surrounded by trees older than villages under a sky more ancient than cities, it feels fresh, like hearing your own heartbeat for the first time. This is where the story of mantras begins, not in books, not in temples, but in breath, in silence. In forests like this one, where sages listened to the world until they could hear its hidden rhythms. The first sounds of the world. Take a slow breath now, a deep one. In the quiet, you can almost feel the ancient rishis, the seers of old, listening to the subtle hum beneath everything. They believed the universe was made not of matter alone, but of vibration. Every mountain, every river, every star, every creature was shaped by sound. Nada Brahma, they called it. The world as sound, God as sound, existence as a single, unending resonance. Shiva, as the eternal yogi, was believed to dwell in that silence beyond noise where all sounds begin. To meditate upon him was to tune into that primordial vibration. And from that silence the first mantra arose, not spoken by a human tongue but felt, like a pulse, a breath, a stirring of air in the vastness of stillness. Om, the first sound, the seed of all sounds. They believed this syllable was the universe awakening. Sages and the gift of listening. You watch the sages in the grove, their backs straight, their faces gentle, their breath long and fluid like river water. These were the people who shaped the earliest mantras, not through invention, but through perception. They listened to the wind in the pines. They listened to the rumble of monsoon clouds. They listened to the flow of river currents and the crackle of fire. And beneath it all, they listened to the stillness, the quiet that holds the world like a mother holding a sleeping child. From that listening, they discerned patterns, vibrations that calmed the mind, rhythms that steadied the breath, sounds that aligned the heart with something vast. These sounds became mantras. Some were long hymns shaped like rivers. Some were short syllables shaped like seeds. The ones devoted to Shiva were among the most potent. The Rudra, hymns wild and ancient. The earliest of them were the Rudra mantras found in the ancient Vedic hymns. These were not gentle. They carried the intensity of storms, the rawness of unfiltered nature. They praised Rudra as the fierce healer, the one whose arrows brought sickness and whose kindness brought relief. To chant the Rudra mantras was to call on the storm not to destroy, but to purify. You imagine a forest clearing thousands of years ago, fire burning bright, a priest lifting his voice in the dark, calling the wild god for protection. Trayambakam yajamahe, the Mahamrityunjaya hymn, the great mantra of overcoming death. Its syllables were heavy with meaning, even then a prayer for healing, a plea for escape from fear, a remembrance that life is a cycle and death but a doorway. To this day the mantra is whispered, at sickbeds recited, over the troubled murmured into the ears of the dying, not to stop death, but to soften its shadow. Om Namah Shivaya, the five-syllable jewel. And then, slowly, through centuries of devotion and meditation, another mantra emerged, one quieter, more intimate. Om Namah Shivaya, 5 syllables, 5 elements, 5 layers of consciousness, 5 steps into the deepest self. This mantra did not call out to Shiva as a distant god. It bowed to the divine within. I bow to the gracious self, the sages interpreted it. I bow to the auspicious presence that lives in all things. When you whisper it, your breath softens, your mind quiets, your heart opens. It is a mantra of surrender, not to an external deity, but to truth itself. Shiva Gayatri, light within shadow. Later came the Shiva Gayatri, a mantra that sought illumination rather than protection. We meditate on the three-eyed one, a hymn that invokes Shiva not as destroyer, but as the light behind all forms, the wisdom that guides the inner eye. It is a mantra chanted in twilight when the boundary between day and night dissolves and the world feels thin, porous, alive with subtle light. Whispers across ages. As the sages in the clearing continue their chant, you feel time collapse. You are here yet. You are also in the distant past, beside riverbanks, where the first hymns were sung, inside caves, where echoes repeated the mantras endlessly, beneath temple domes, where priests whispered the sacred syllables into the ears of initiates. You realize something profound. A mantra is not merely a sound, it is a path, a bridge, a boat across the river of the mind. And Shiva's mantras, the Rudra hymns, the Mahamrityunjaya, Om Namah Shivaya, are not prayers to a god, but invitations to become still, to become spacious, to become aligned with the eternal rhythm the sages once heard in the hum of creation. You listen again to the chant rising from the firelit circle. The voices blend with the wind, the rustling leaves, the distant cry of a night bird. The sounds surround you until you no longer know where the chant ends and the world begins. Toward the next chapter, gently the chanting fades, the sages bow, the fire dims to glowing coals. The grove falls silent, but inside you the mantras continue to resonate warm, steady, like a hidden lamp. You stand and turn toward a path leading deeper into the night, toward a quieter, more intimate exploration, the power of these sacred sounds in the lives of seekers, healers, and ordinary souls. Your steps are slow, your breath soft. The night holds you like a cradle. Healing, courage, peace, the power of sacred sound. The night deepens as you leave the grove of chanting sages behind. The last glow of their sacred fire fades, slowly replaced by the cool silver of starlight stretching across the sky. The forest around you has grown still, so still that each breath feels like part of the silence. You walk along a narrow path where moonbeams spill over stones like soft water. The mantras you heard continue to echo within you, not as sounds now, but as sensations, a gentle vibration behind your ribs, a warmth spreading through your chest, a quiet brightness behind your eyes. In this softness, you begin to understand what the ancients meant when they said, mantra is medicine. Not medicine for the body alone, but for the restless mind, the wounded heart, the weary spirit. Tonight you begin to learn how. The healing hidden in vibration. You reach a small meadow bathed in pale moonlight. Wild flowers sway gently in the night breeze. A solitary fig tree stands at the meadow's center, its roots embracing the earth like a wise elder. You sit beneath it, the cool grass brushing your legs. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen not outward, but inward. Somewhere inside a soft hum begins, not a sound you produce, but one you feel. It is the lingering resonance of the mantras. The sages said that sound, especially sacred sound, travels not only through the air, but through the body, through nerves, through breath, through the subtle channels known as nadis. A mantra is a tuning fork, and you are the instrument it tunes. When the vibrations align, the disturbances quiet. The mind stills. The heart eases. This is healing. Not sudden, not dramatic, but steady, patient like honey dissolving in warm water. Stories of healing across ages. From the meadow, your thoughts drift into memory and myth stories whispered through generations about those who sought Shiva's mantras in moments of fear, pain, or despair. The ailing king. In an ancient kingdom, a king struck with a mysterious illness was said to have found relief not from medicines, but from a priest who sat at his bedside, murmuring the Mahamrityunjaya mantra all night long. The king said he felt the chant like warm light spreading through a frozen body. The grieving mother. Another tale speaks of a woman who lost her only child. Unable to bear the weight of grief, she wandered to a temple where a mendicant monk taught her to whisper Om Namah Shivaya with each breath. Weeks later, she said the mantra had become the bridge between sorrow and acceptance. The warrior with a shaking heart. In Tamil lore, a young warrior once confessed to losing courage before battle. His guru placed a hand over his heart and whispered the Shiva Gayatri. Do not call for strength, the guru said. Become the stillness from which strength rises. Such stories are countless. Their details differ. Their theme is one. Mantra does not erase suffering. It steadies you so that you may face it. The path through fear. The night wind rustles the fig leaves above you. You look up watching them shimmer like silver fish in a dark sea. Fear, the ancients believed, is a storm of the mind, loud, swirling, blinding. A mantra is the anchor dropped deep beneath the waves. When fear rises, the breath shortens, the heart races, the mind leaps from past to future. But when you whisper a mantra slowly, steadily, your breath lengthens your nerves. Settle your mind, returns to the present. The mantra does not chase fear away. It dissolves it by grounding you in awareness. You lift your hand to your chest, now feeling your own heartbeat, steady, calm. You whisper softly, Om Namah Shivaya. The words float into the night like a feather on a gentle wind. Peace as a living presence. From the meadow you rise and follow a narrow path down toward a small pool nestled among the rocks. Moonlight rests on its surface like liquid silver. The water is perfectly still, not a ripple. Something inside you mirrors that stillness. This is the peace hidden in mantra practice, a peace not dependent on circumstances, but discovered beneath the noise of thought. The sages taught, where the mantra settles, the mind becomes a lake, clear, reflective, unbounded. You kneel at the edge of the pool. The moon's reflection breaks into gentle waves, as you lightly touch the surface with your fingertips. Even the water's soft tremble feels like part of the teaching. Peace is not the absence of movement. It is calmness within movement. Just like Shiva in meditation, the still point inside a cosmos endlessly turning. Courage born from stillness. You rise again and begin walking along the pool's edge. Mantras are not only for healing or serenity. They can awaken courage, not the hot, fiery courage of warriors, but the quiet, steady courage of one who knows they are not walking alone. Whispering a sacred mantra reminds you of your inner strength, a strength always present, even when forgotten. Courage, the sages said, is not loud. It is deep. It is silent. It is the willingness to take one more step, even when the path ahead is dim. You take such a step now. Then another. Each step feels lighter than the last. A story of transformation. In the hills of Kashmir, there is an old tale of a hermit who carried anger like a fire in his chest. He came to a teacher who gave him only this instruction: when anger rises, do not act, do not fight it. Whisper the mantra. Let the sound hold the flame. Years later, the hermit returned changed, peaceful. His anger no longer a fire, but a warmth he used to help others. Did the mantra erase your anger? The teacher asked. No, the man replied. It showed me that I am larger than my anger. This is the truth you feel stirring inside you now. A soft return to the path. You begin walking again, leaving the meadow and pool behind. The night grows incredibly still, so still that you can hear your own breath mixing gently with the breeze. Ahead, the landscape begins to rise. A new ridge forms a silhouette against the star-filled sky. The air changes, becoming thinner, more sacred, as though leading you toward a doorway. For the next chapter will be one of meaning, a reflection upon all that Shiva embodies: destruction, not as violence, but as release, as renewal, as liberation. The wind carries the promise of dawn's first light, and you follow it softly, step by step, toward the final teachings of Shiva. Shiva's gifts: destruction, transformation, liberation. Dawn begins its quiet ascent as you leave the stillness of the meadow behind. The sky shifts from silver to a faint lavender, soft as the inside of a seashell. A pale glow settles along the horizon, touching the peaks of distant mountains with the first hint of gold. The air is cool but no longer sharp, carrying the softness of morning, the faint promise of renewal. You walk along a narrow ridge where the rocks are warm with memory, but cold with night. Below, rivers snake through the valleys like threads of liquid pearl. The world feels hushed, as if the mountains themselves are holding their breath, waiting for something sacred to return. This is the hour of reflection, the hour when night has not fully gone and day has not fully arrived. The hour Shiva's teachings become clearest. For Shiva is not only the yogi, not only the dancer, not only the guardian of mantra. He is also the destroyer, but not in the way the word first strikes the mind. His destruction is not chaos, not cruelty, not annihilation. His destruction is clearing, purification, transformation, a sacred dissolution that allows something new to grow. And now in the soft half-light you begin to understand the deeper meaning of this divine force. The nature of Shiva's destruction. You reach a stone outcropping and sit watching the dim world slowly brighten. A gentle mist moves across the valley. A single pine tree stands against the sky like a dark, quiet witness. As you breathe, a question forms: why must anything be destroyed at all? The ancients answered not with fear, but with understanding. Everything that exists carries its own impermanence. The leaf dries and falls. The river shifts its bed. The mountain erodes grain by grain. The body ages. The mind releases old stories. The heart lets go of what cannot stay. If nothing ended, nothing new could begin. Shiva embodies this truth. He does not destroy for the sake of destruction. He dissolves what has served its time like the winter that yields to spring the night, that yields to dawn, the ego that yields to awakening. You inhale deeply and feel a space open inside you. This is not an ending. It is an invitation. The fire of transformation. As the sun lifts slightly, its rays strike the ridge and scatter into beams of gold. You close your eyes and feel the light settle on your skin. Fire. Shiva's inner fire is not like earthly flame. It is a fire of insight, a fire that burns away illusion, a fire that reveals truth. Many stories depict him seated before a blazing dhuni, a sacred fire. But sages taught that his true fire lives within every seeker. When you face your fears, when you release resentment, when you shed old identities, when you transform suffering into wisdom, you touch Shiva's fire. Transformation is a slow burn, a gentle alchemy, a steady, patient rising. You reflect on the moments in your own life when old forms fell away, jobs lost, loves ended, beliefs outgrown. At the time they felt like destruction, but later they became openings. The fire did not consume you, it refined you, just like Shiva's sacred flame. Letting go as a sacred practice. You rise from the rock and continue walking. The ridge widens the path, smoothing beneath your feet. A soft breeze brushes your cheek, carrying the scent of damp earth and cedar sap. Letting go is not always dramatic. Often it is a quiet, unburdening, a loosening of the knot around the heart. The scriptures speak of Shiva sitting in meditation, completely still, ash covering his skin, the world moving around him in cycles of birth and death. His stillness teaches that not everything must be held. Not everything deserves attachment. To let go is not indifference. It is clarity. You pause and watch a leaf fall from a nearby tree, spiraling gently, landing softly on the ground. No struggle, no regret, just release. That, too, is Shiva. Liberation, the final gift. As the sun finally crests the horizon, its golden light spills across the valley like a soft, glowing river. The landscape awakens. Birds begin to sing, branches sway, the world breathes. The light touches your face, and something inside you softens as though a long-held knot is finally unwinding. Liberation, moksha, the highest of Shiva's gifts, not a place, not a realm above the clouds, not a reward. Liberation is clarity, it is peace, it is the quiet knowing of your true nature, the part of you untouched by time, untouched by loss, untouched by the changes of the world. Shiva, seated in eternal meditation, symbolizes this truth that beneath every thought, beneath every fear, beneath every story you carry, there is a field of awareness, vast and open and unshaken. To discover it is liberation. You feel a glimpse of it now, a lightness in your chest, a stillness behind your eyes, a calm that does not depend on anything outside you, a quiet joy, simple and profound, a story of inner freedom. The sages tell a small story here meant to be a lantern for the wandering heart. One day a traveler asked Shiva, "How do I free myself from the weight of my mind?" Shiva lifted a handful of ash and let it fall slowly. "Be like this," he said. "Hold nothing." The traveler frowned. "But how do I hold nothing?" Shiva smiled gently. "By seeing that nothing truly belongs to you, not even your thoughts. Your task is not to silence them, but to stop clinging to them. The ash scattered in the wind, the traveler understood, and now sitting beneath the rising sun, you do too. Toward the final chapter, the ridge slopes downward ahead, leading toward a valley filled with soft, golden light. This journey is almost complete, yet one chapter remains the gentlest of all. A chapter where everything you have learned about sound, about stillness, about devotion, about fire, about letting go, converges into a final whisper. A night that ends in mantra, a story that ends in peace, a path that ends in rest. You take a slow breath and step forward toward the valley of the closing tale. The eternal mantra in the quiet of night. Evening settles once more, folding the world into its soft indigo embrace. You walk down the final slope of the ridge, your footsteps tracing the slow, ancient rhythm of the land. Below you, a small valley opens like a cradle, gentle hills, a winding silver river, and a scattering of trees, standing like silent guardians of the dusk. A pale glow rises in the sky as the first stars awaken. One, then another, then 1,000 more. You reach a meadow where the grass moves in long, sleepy waves beneath the cool breeze. The air carries a faint sweetness, the scent of night-blooming flowers, opening their pale petals to the dark. From somewhere nearby, a lone flute begins to play its notes, soft and wandering like a child singing in their sleep. This is the final chapter of your journey, the place where myth becomes meaning, where breath becomes prayer, where story becomes stillness. You walk to the center of the meadow and sit upon the earth. It is warm beneath you as though holding the last memory of the sun. Above, constellations shift slowly, like ancient dancers moving across the sky. And in this quiet you begin to feel something subtle, a vibration, a hum, a presence, not outside you, within you, a faint echo of every chapter you've walked. Shiva the ascetic, Shiva the lover, Shiva the dancer, Shiva the compassionate protector, Shiva the destroyer and liberator, Shiva the silence beneath all sound, and now Shiva the mantra. The mantra that watches over night. The flute's melody fades, leaving the meadow wrapped in deep stillness. In that stillness, the mantra begins to rise in your mind, not spoken aloud, but humming softly like a glowing ember. Om Namah Shivaya. It comes slowly, gently, like evening tide washing against the shore. This is the Panchakshari mantra, the 5-syllable jewel, a prayer, a meditation, a remembrance, a surrender. It means simply, I bow to the auspicious, gracious self within. You close your eyes. The words repeat themselves, not with force, but with the softness of breath drifting in and out. Om, the sound of the universe awakening. Na, the sound of surrender. Ma, the sound of honor. Sh, the sound of peace. Va, ya, the sound of merging with the divine. As you breathe, each syllable glows brighter within you until they no longer feel like words at all. They feel like light. The night of understanding. A gentle wind moves across the meadow, touching your face with the coolness of river mist. The stars shimmer as though listening. In this quiet, everything you have learned arrives without effort, that destruction is not violence, but release. That time is a river. Shiva holds gently. That fear dissolves when met with awareness. That devotion is patience. That true strength is stillness. That healing begins with a single breath. That liberation is not a place, but a way of seeing. Each truth settles into you like soft rain falling on thirsty soil. And now something deeper begins to stir, a sense that the mantra is not only ancient, but eternal. It has no age, no beginning, no end. It arises in the earliest cosmic pulses and the whispers of the first sages in the hearts of pilgrims, in the quiet longing of those who seek meaning, and now in you. You open your eyes. The meadow glows faintly beneath the soft wash of starlight. The river glimmers like a silver serpent, winding through the dark. Crickets sing. The world breathes. Everything feels alive with mantra. Shiva's presence without form. You do not see Shiva standing before you, no divine figure with moonlit hair, no dancer wreathed in flame, no ascetic cloaked in ash. But you feel him in the open sky, in the soft earth beneath your hands, in your breath, in the pulse within your chest, in the space between thoughts. Shiva, the sages said, is not limited to any form. He is the awareness in all beings, the silence behind every sound, the freedom that waits beneath every fear. When you whisper his mantra, you do not call him to you. You awaken to him within you, a truth as old as time itself. The cosmic return to stillness. The stars above shift slightly, and the night deepens into a soft, velvety darkness, the kind that carries dreams gently. In your mind, you see Shiva seated on Mount Kailash, his eyes half closed, his breath deep and slow, his face serene as the moon on calm waters. His stillness radiates outward, reaching the forests, the rivers, the mountains, the creatures of night, the wandering souls, the seekers of truth. And you are part of that radiance now, a small flame in the great circle of light. Your breath aligns with a rhythm that existed before your birth and will exist long after your body has returned to dust. Everything dissolves into a single sensation, quiet, expansive, peaceful. The mantra hums softly within you, Om Namah Shivaya, and then softer still, Om, like the universe inhaling. A final blessing of the night. As the mantra fades into stillness, you feel something warm touch your heart, a sense of blessing not spoken in words but conveyed through presence. It is Shiva's final teaching that peace is not found. It is remembered. It lives beneath every worry, every sorrow, every fear, every thought, every breath. Peace is the foundation, the beginning, the end, the space in which everything arises and into which everything returns. Just as Shiva dances creation and rests in dissolution, your life too is a dance, one that ends in silence, one that always returns to stillness. You lie back gently in the meadow, feeling the earth cradle you. The stars swirl above like 1,000 tiny lanterns. The river murmurs a lullaby. Your eyelids grow heavy. The mantra lingers one last time, so soft it feels like a sigh. Om Namah Shivaya. The sound melts into the night, and you drift into rest calm, safe, held by the ancient story you've walked through, a story whose echo will stay with you long after dawn returns.